Hello and welcome once again to Talking Pictures Podcast. I'm your host David and joined with me as always my co-host Brian. Brian, how are you today?
Something funny.
Something funny?
Yeah.
What's funny?
I don't know. I thought about saying something funny along the way up here and I just completely forgot because we've had a DMC before this talk. So.
Sorry, man. Sorry. We are going to be talking about part 2 of Zack Snyders Rebel Moon films. So we're going to be talking about the Scargiver. So we talked about the first part, The Child of Fire, back in December. So if you want to go back and listen to that, obviously, if you're watching both films together, if you watched the first one and you're coming now to hear about the second one or whatever. But yeah, we talked about the first one back in December and we're going to be discussing now, obviously, part 2, The Scargiver. But before we get into that, Brian, have you got a trailer of the week for us?
I do, yeah.
Brilliant. Hit me with it.
Trap.
Excellent choice. This is one of those, before I let you talk about it, I'm going to talk about it a little bit. This is one of those trailers where it seems like they give just the setup. I know, have you watched it yet?
No.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so you haven't watched it, you know about it, but I've watched it and I didn't know about it. So watching it, it seems like the trailer is just the setup and then that's it. Like there's no clips in it from, or no scenes from anything past maybe the half an hour mark. Feels like this is all set up.
Did you like the trailer?
I did, yeah. And it's one, like, I think that it's one of the great trailers that when you watch it, you go, okay, brilliant, I'm in. I don't want to watch anything more from this. I want to see it all in the film.
I don't think you've mentioned yet, and neither have I. It's M. Night's new movie.
M. Night Shyamalan, yeah. So his last one was Knock at the Cabin, which is another one that we did there back in the early days. One of our shorter episodes, definitely. But yeah, M. Night
he'll soon be joining Zack Snyder as a director who we talk about 2 movies.
Yes.
But I think he'll stand out more because Rebel Moon's one story in 2 movies, whereas Knock at the Cabin and Trap are just two standalone, completely separate movies. David, I think now M. Night Shyamalan has just become one of those directors who he's got a movie coming out. Everyone's going to check it out.
Mm-hmm. He's not like a big blockbuster director. He's not like, I'm going to make $1 billion here, but he's going to make a well thought out original film.
And he's going to have really interesting actors cast in the movies, and they're maintaining a controlled budget. Mm-hmm. He's like Wes Anderson has a new movie coming out, but then M. Night Shyamalan has a new movie coming out, and I pay attention to it. I pay attention to it every time he's got a movie coming out, and what a career he's had! What a spiral he's gotten into of being once proclaimed as the next Spielberg, having done the likes of Unbreakable, Sixth Sense, Signs, probably not in that order, but then just backwards opposite of The Happening, The Last Airbender, Lady in the Water, which I don't think is as bad as everyone deems it to be, and The Village, which I also don't think everyone deems it as bad to be, but marketing was wrong there.
He definitely was on the upward trajectory and then took a steep decline.
Yeah.
But since maybe Split?
The Visit.
Was that first?
That was first.
Yeah. Since The Visit, he's been on a steady upwards.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit down every now and again.
Every now and then, yeah.
Yeah.
You see, he had nothing to lose and he put everything he had into The Visit. People would see, I don't know if his name was on The Visit marketing, but it's just a new movie, and those who knew it was an M. Night movie had nothing to lose. Yeah, we'll go and watch it, check it out, and then it was actually really good. Great. One step closer to having more resources to make Split, with having the cast he did have. Anya Taylor-Joy before she was Anya Taylor-Joy, I'd reckon.
Yeah.
And a very committed James McAvoy. And then getting your one who was in The Happening, that actress. Don't see her in anything much, but M. Night got her back. Great. Twist at the end led him to the next movie, Glass, which people didn't like so much. But then, went on to venture into Old. People were curious. Knock at the Cabin. People are curious.
Yeah.
Now we have Trap. People are curious.
Yeah.
So that's it. Just wanted to talk a little bit about M. Night, give him his due course, because do you feel like you're going to talk about Trap?
Based on the trailer, which I think...
it has to be good. You know?
I think without discussing the trailer, I would say to people, go and watch it.
Should they though? Because the trailer gives away something that, yes, it does give away something in the half-hour mark, but you'll get people who would say, I wish I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where if you are happy to go into it not knowing anything, then I would probably advise that. But if you are someone that needs to be curious, then watch this teaser, get a feel for what it is going to be, and then maybe don't watch anything else.
Yeah. But tell you what, how about we'll just say what it is briefly here.
No,
without giving it away. So it's just a movie where a father is at a concert with his daughter and something bad is happening.
Yeah.
Are you intrigued?
Yeah, if you need more, watch the trailer, but if you're intrigued...
But the trailer has a twist at the end.
Yeah. Like the movies, the trailer has a twist. But we won't stray too long on this now, because we're obviously talking more about M. Night than the actual trailer itself. But we'll move on to our main topic of the episode, which is Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver.
Ideas, Part 2, Wound Inflictor.
So before we get on to the actual main review of the episode, I want to say stick around till the end, because we've got a special announcement just at the very end, so make sure that you listen all the way through. But
don't skip.
No, please don't skip. Listen to the whole thing. But so obviously we've got now part 2 of this. We talked about the first one back in December.
What an enthusiastic mind I had.
When the initial trailer came out, we were shocked that it was 2 films, because it was only announced as 1.
I actually did know it was going to be 2.
Oh, you did? Okay, I didn't. Well, I was shocked.
I remember you telling me. I was in Slovenia when you told me.
Was you?
Yeah,
I wasn't.
I was.
Okay,
you were texting.
I've never been to Slovenia. So.
Oh no, you were texting me, and I remember the trailer came out, and 2 persons. He's like, "No way! Look at the end of the trailer." 2 persons like, "Oh yeah."
So this is obviously the second part now. So after seeing the movie, I saw your review on Letterboxd, and I don't think I could agree more that this is very much between the 2 movies.
Yes,
this could have been a much more well-conceived one movie that was 3 hours long.
Yeah, and that's, of course, we're living in a day and age where 3-hour movies are getting more common, but that's okay for the sake of a Netflix release. You can do that, you know. If you really combined Rebel Moon Part 1 and 2 into one movie, remove everything that's a waste, cut out anything that doesn't belong, and you know what? So while we're at it, why don't we just dial back on the slow motion? You have a solid 3-hour movie there.
Yeah.
And I'm just accommodating 3 hours because it's 4.5, 5 hours in total, something like that, roughly.
Yeah, 2 hours and 2 hours 10. So that cut there of the 2 films. Now, I don't know about you. I went back and I actually rewatched the first one.
Yeah.
Ahead of watching this. Just to kind of give myself a bit of context. I wanted to go back and also listen to our episode and kind of what was I thinking back then when I'd first seen it. Now that I've sat with it a little bit, how do I feel about it? And I think having rewatched the first one, I think the first half is quite good and it's strong. But in the first movie, when they venture into the
Mos Eisley,
when they basically kind of meet Charlie Hunnam, then the progressing scenes then are just collecting main characters.
Yeah, let's visit this environment with intriguing ideas, with this mysteriously intriguing character, and recruit them.
Yeah,
and then let's do the same 3 more times.
Yeah, and that whole aspect of it, I was like, I now don't care anymore, because why are we collecting these characters? It's because these guys are either skilled or they're enemies to the Empire, the Motherworld, whatever it is exactly.
They fit a description, profile, characteristics.
Yeah.
The animal tamer who comes from royalty, the gladiator who
is a disgraced general.
Yeah, and who's the other one?
Rebel lead, the Blood Axe, and his kind of
the resistance military figures who have somewhat decreasing roles, and you have the nemesis, the only character who would have lightsabers had this been a Star Wars movie, which I respect.
But that film then just feels like it's collecting characters, and then all of a sudden it's the end. They're ambushed at this dock.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this doesn't feel like a satisfying conclusion to like what were we leading up to.
It's just a battle.
Yeah.
The only revelation at the end, because every movie has a revelation, is that Charlie Hunnam just betrayed him.
Yeah.
He betrayed. He was like, so he's okay. You got one of them. You think it would have been Michiel Huisman, and then playing coy with the main protagonist female to the two male supporting, putting a Twilight element in there.
Whereas if we kind of had that first hour in the first movie, collected the characters, and then pretty much started this film, then I think it might have ran a little bit better. But I think my main issue, right, with all of this between the two movies, and I kind of realized this as we were spending so much time on this planet, this farm planet.
Yeah. Veldt,
yeah.
Quite creative.
I think that these two movies would have worked better if it wasn't sci-fi. And what I mean by that is, if this was instead of sci-fi, if it was a post-apocalyptic world, because in this one, the second one, Scargiver, the whole sci-fi element of going to other planets and all that kind of stuff is non-existent. We spend all of our time on Veldt, and we have the Dreadnought from the bad guy's perspective. So there's no real sci-fi element going to other worlds, all this. Now that is present in the first one, but like we said, and like we said in the first review, and you said it here as well, a lot of ideas not expanded upon. We saw glimpses of cool things, but not at all expanded on. And a couple of those things after listening back, do you remember in the first one there was like this alien slug thing that was like controlling someone else and speaking through him?
Yeah, great idea.
There was obviously the spider woman in like a militarist, or not militaristic, but like a kind of like the slums of an outer world. Blade Runner. Then we had
intriguing monster
Titus in a gladiator world.
And
I'm like that.
And you put the idea in my head, how great would it have been to have an introduction of him just doing a Fade Rotha to some dudes.
A galactic gladiator,
rather than just bumming on the streets drinking.
And then the other guy, the Tarek, the monster tamer,
sexy.
Yeah, we obviously find him in that like kind of wasteland place, but then we find out in this one that he comes from royalty. But his whole world just looked like a
room. A building.
Well, when she was looking out, it looked like it was like England. From the architecture, I was like, okay, this is Space England. So I was like, he wanted to have this whole sci-fi world.
Yeah.
And have all these other individual worlds, but we're never going to explore those. So what's the point in having so much when you're showing us so little?
Yeah.
Whereas if this had just been a post-apocalyptic world, and I'll get on to, I have another reason to justify this as well.
Take your time.
I think that having this be a post-apocalyptic world, you could still have those sci-fi elements. You know, there was a great battle, there was a great war. Now it's, these guys are all farmers, but they still have certain aspects. You know, the guns and stuff are still futuristic, because we don't, set this in a world that's, 1,000 years in the future, but we've retrograded back to farming, and stuff like that. Like, they're kind of like
using
Norse almost,
using old fashioned tools, like the stick with the Grim Reaper spear thing,
and then having them go and find those other characters, but find them still within this world, and just have it all take place on the one world, as opposed to going off into the distance.
Yeah.
The other reason then that I thought
why this would suit better to be a post-apocalyptic world
was just how kind of small scale the stakes were. And by that I mean that the whole Imperial army, this guy Ed Serkin on the Dreadnought, was coming because they needed grain to feed the soldiers. And I'm like, how much grain, first of all, are these guys producing that's going to feed this whole army? And second of all, how small is the army that this grain will feed them? Do you know, it was such a big, we want that grain, we're going to, this whole huge battle over a couple of bags of grain. I was like, this is so small scale what you're fighting for.
Yeah.
That it just doesn't fit. These two things don't fit. It's like a square peg in a round hole. Whereas if it had been a smaller, this is a farm town and they're from a big city that's still ruined, post-apocalyptic, but
Yeah.
they're the rulers of this world, and they wanted it because they are the rulers of it.
Would you think it would have limited resources and accessibilities in accomplishing certain aspects if it were a post-apocalyptic? What type of post-apocalyptic are you thinking?
I'm thinking like almost like post-apocalyptic fantasy. I would like to see a mix of, say, Mad Max,
Okay.
where it's
See,
post-apocalyptic, but there's still like machinery and stuff like that.
yeah, but you see, when I see Mad Max, I see nothing but limited resources because everything is going into vehicles.
Yeah, well, no, I don't. I don't mean it like that. I mean it in so much that they do rely still on vehicles, but they're produced,
upgrade. Let's say recycle and upcycle.
And then like keep the weapons and stuff like that. That's fine. It's like from a bygone age, and then as well as that, like
because they were bygone age looking weapons.
they were, yeah. They
shoot, pull the trigger, shoot someone, reload. Except it's glowing red and it's a laser.
Yeah, and then as well as that, the robot. Jimmy. If he had been just he's a remnant from a bygone age. It's like, oh, this robot, like, because he's the only robot that we see in either film, really.
Because they're supposed to be extinct.
They're supposed to be extinct
because they were part of a battle. There was a great war against the robots, and they defeated the robots, and he's the only one left.
But I think that in a post-apocalyptic world is kind of like it's just a cooler visual because you have...
Oh yeah, David, you know what that is? It's a great idea.
It's having him be like a remnant from a bygone age of like, oh, he's the last robot. You know, this is where we got to as a society, that there were robots and they were an everyday thing, but now this one is like... And still give him the same aesthetic of having the antlers and stuff like that.
Yeah, going through an existential crisis.
Yeah, I think that
The fact that he's observing the town and he slays back, sits on the rock and looks at the sky. A robot doing that? That's interesting.
Yeah,
it's a great idea.
It's a great idea. It's there were a lot of good ideas, just not executed well.
Yeah.
So I don't want to talk to, like, obviously I've talked a little bit now, but I think that I would have liked the movie a lot more if it had just scaled back in that sense. You know, of still do the sci-fi-ness of it, but just have it be post-apocalyptic. Don't have it be this is my Star Wars kind of way that it went about it.
Do you know what this movie felt like when I was watching it? A comic book. Now, let that sink for a second.
Yeah, okay.
Alright? You're watching this movie. Everything, every little detail. Just think of the scenes. The scene where the round table where they all have their dialogue to give an expedition dump, or the hour-long battle. Because let's face it, David, I timed it. It was an hour. It was an hour-long battle. All those scenes. It is the closest feeling I've ever had where this medium, in that of Netflix released movie, was transmitted from the pages of a comic book, where you look at the squares of the comic books where it's pictures, the panels. So you're opening up a comic book and you're reading the panels, and there's the characters in the session. Now, you know that idea where I always remind everyone that when you're off frame of a screen, it's not there. Well, that's exactly what a comic book is, David. It's up to the artist to draw what's there. And they create the environment. So
see, I think Zack Snyder fits into that realm well, because like we said in the first review as well, is I can't fault him on his cinematography. Like, you pause a Zack Snyder film and it looks great.
Yeah.
And I won't fault it on that. There was no point where I thought this looks bad. It looked cool. That's the thing, though. It looks cool. And
motion picture.
Yeah, it's a picture in motion like that. It's as if he read the comic book and took the exact shot from the comic and put it on screen. So I get what you mean.
What I'm trying to explain is when you're reading a comic book, you move from one panel to the next. You know, you go from left to right and down to the bottom right to the left. And I got that right?
Left to right. Yeah. I know what you mean, though. Yeah.
I'm dyslexic. So there's no flow of time in a comic book. It's up to you to read it. And there's panels in between the motion of movement, you know, the movement of time, whereas it's not so much in a movie. It's as close as linear as time is for you and me right now doing this podcast, moving forward. But it's like scene establishing. But that's it. Tarek, your man, you're going around with a 6-pack displaying out. He goes after your one with the raccoon looking woman, goes after her and rescues her, kinda. And I remember he's shooting a few soldiers, but I remember there's some in the distance. You cut back to them having a little convo, and then you cut back to what they're looking in the far distance. Oh look, another robot they have to destroy, which they had no problem doing before that. Robot, the big machine thing.
The mech,
the mech. And I'm thinking, where are those other soldiers that were just there?
Yeah.
That you were trying to execute, that were literally close by. Jimmy, the robot, somehow drops in like a bomb. I don't know how.
From where?
From up.
Yeah.
And
when you're putting it like this, I see where you're coming from now, that if it's just, it doesn't matter what's not on screen, because it just matters what is there.
Yes. And now I'm trying to further explain this by, okay, he's there, great, he's turning red, that means he's getting angry. He's and he's gonna kill as many of those soldiers around him. They circle him. He does a judo kick, and gets a machine gun and just does a 360 around him, shooting everyone. And you know, think about the shot angles Snyder shoots to capture that. If you just paused it and took a freeze frame from it and make it into a comic book, you can make that so.
Yeah.
Because especially when he's going around spinning everyone, just freeze frame that. Just push one square in the panel, and then another one where a sky shot of him jumping into the ship and then going inside it, and then the grenade, and then he gets out and he blows it up. See, it's all. He wanted this scene to happen, so he had to establish it. But you know,
the logic around the scene doesn't need to make
like
sense as long as it looks cool.
Like the fact that there's soldiers circling the robot, when just stand there and shoot him until he's melted. And okay, he's obviously have strong armor, but still nothing. So this movie is just definitely, you can sum it up to it being quite a well executed transition from a comic book to a movie. Not just the fact that it probably is that, but also it literally is that, because I've made an argument here for it. But it's also Zack Snyder doing whatever the hell he wants to do, because he can. I don't know if it was Netflix's idea to do part 1, the child version one, the lack of R-ratedness.
Oh, sorry, yeah. To do
the PG-13.
Because he's now, and we talked about this in the first one as well, that there's a possibility that he has a Snyder cut of both of these films. We kind of talked about it in that is Netflix manufacturing this? Is Zack Snyder stoking the flames to try and get a full version out there? But like,
and you see, I listened to an interview of Zack Snyder recently, and while they acknowledged the PG-13 and the R-rated cut, they don't acknowledge why that is the case. I still don't know if Netflix wanted him to do that, or if Netflix wanted him to release this movie, or if he says, okay, yeah, I can do this movie, but I want to do this movie. So maybe that's it. I don't know. But why? It's not being released in theaters.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to...
It's forcing a director's cut. So you're going to give us a director's cut here, where is room for the R-ratedness here in this movie? I don't see it. It's very acceptable for what it is. And I want to talk about that expedition scene where all the rebels are standing in the circle and just...
going through their backstories. You want to go through some flashbacks before we talk about that, though?
Yeah, let's sit here on a table and let's reminisce.
Brilliant. Laura, play that jingle for us. Thank you, Laura. So, some flashbacks for Rebel Moon 2, The Scargiver. Flashback number 1. Rupert Friend was originally cast in the role of Belisarius, but dropped out due to scheduling conflicts with The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, and Fra Fee was later cast in the role. I think I would have liked Rupert Friend more
Yeah, I think Ruby Friend would have made a good Balisauria Dinosaurus. Fra Fee's younger.
Bellasaurus Rex.
Fra Fee is younger than Sofia Boutella. He's younger.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be older. Much older.
Yeah. Now, I think, I don't want to do the work for Zack Snyder, but I could see that as a, like, he's actually older than he seems, and he's, like, rejuvenating himself. Like, maybe that's a part of the world that...
He casted him for the sake of a possible prequel.
Oh, there you go. Okay, then never mind. So
world building, David. Great idea.
Yeah.
But he was only in one scene in this movie. And
same as last one. Well, two in the last one.
Yeah, here definitely. You see, the last part one teased Ed Skrein's having to be a Zaki and do his dirty work, and to bring him Kora. Is that her name?
Yep.
She looks cool. But I was expecting a reunion. I was expecting him to, I don't know, come. Now, I'm watching this movie and I completely forget all about the guy. But, oh yeah, that lingering idea he made. What's he going to do with that? Maybe that might lead into your next flashback.
So flashback number 2. While the film was originally conceived as 2 parts, it's now rumoured that Zack Snyder intends to make 4 to 6 films.
Yeah, so I guess we're going to see Balisauria in that one.
Yeah,
as the Darth Vader type. He's the Darth Vader of Rebel Moon. Yeah, Fra Fee, Fra Fee. FF is that guy. Yeah, is the Darth Vader to Zack Snyder's version of Star Wars.
I see him more as the Emperor, but like this looming presence that we won't deal with until the 6th film. But
6. You're not even gonna go to 5.
No, I think it's ambitious to want to do 6 films. Like, I mean, it's no. We're not hiding the fact that these films aren't performing well. Like, both films between the two of them are like at like 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, so they're not doing well in terms of like reviews. I don't know what Netflix, like, are they pulling in new subscriptions to watch this film? Are they getting a lot of views on it? I don't see anyone talking about it other than in a negative aspect, so I just can't see Netflix pursuing more of this.
Sure, Zack Snyder's supposed to be doing another Army of the Dead zombie movie, Planet of the Dead.
Yeah, so like, are Netflix going to cut ties and say like, look, we are not as bankable of a star, as bankable of a director than we thought? Like, I think that maybe they saw the whole restore the Snyderverse and release the Snyder Cut in one way when it was actually perceived as another way, really. They thought they could remanufacture that. And
well, no, I think it's just they have themselves a good director. He is a good director. He made Man of Steel. I guess there's just no ropes on him. There's no strings on him. No strings on me. So he's just
the only string is that you can do a 4-hour version, but we're going to release the 2-hour version. You can make whatever you want, but we're going to cut it down.
Because they need content. They need to have content every quarter. So you know.
And then flashback number 3, there's actually a prequel comic following Ray Fisher and Cleopatra Coleman's characters entitled House of the Blood Axe. The paperback following the siblings is set to release this August.
Don't care.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where it's, let's give context for things in a different medium, and I just don't think that often works, the whole transmedia aspect of it. And it's like, there's nothing in either of these movies that has made me care enough about either character to make me want to seek them out in a different form, you know?
Has that ever happened to you? A movie comes out so unexpectedly, establishing a new universe, a new IP, and then further material in different medium comes out and you go to explore it?
Not really. I don't think so. Not off the top of my head. Now, there has been obviously adaptations of stuff where I've gone back to the source material.
Yes.
But not in this.
To continue watching or continue learning more about the adventures of this person and that person. Yeah. Well, I thought it was nice to see Zack Snyder cast a guy who came from theatre, Ray Fisher, to play one of the rebels in Rebel Moon. Great. Establishing he's a resistance fighter with his sister. Cool. Yeah, there's always siblings in there somewhere. Dies.
Yeah.
And he dies slow motion, that too. And he makes an appearance in this one in a flashback. Literally one shot.
No lines, yeah. Just
One shot, he's there, and they threw him in the trailer anyway. I thought somehow he was still alive and that he would come back. No. And you know me, David, I love my casualties. I love my character deaths. There's nothing wrong with me. And okay, you're gonna just... Here, look. Why don't you make prequel comics to all the Rebel characters in this? You know, why not? Do a prequel comic on Kai, that guy. Probably the one guy I actually missed. I missed hearing Charlie Hunnam produce that Belfast accent in this movie. Because with his presence in part one, you know, as the pilot of the ship, okay, so he's not that main of a character, but he's that necessary force. Still the coolest looking shot of the first movie where he's got the hood over himself, draped in that overlong coat, whips out a pistol. I like that. I actually want to draw that. I like that character as far as liking any of these characters goes. And I like that, okay, he's the betrayer, he betrays them. Oh, he just gets killed just like that. It doesn't look anything beyond than Michiel Huisman just putting a prop underneath his chin and adding a sound effect in there. There's no blood, there is no movement of the bullet, let's say, or the spike, the bolt going into his chin, like killing him. And then you don't even see a dead body afterwards. It's just gone. He was probably arguably your most bankable actor in that movie. I want to further discuss about that little aspect here, which ties into why I want to give my argument, why this should have been one movie. But Laura's still standing in the corner.
Shit, I always forget. Sorry, Laura, play us out here. Thank you, Laura. So
yes,
please continue.
I would love to continue. So let me try and generate the context. If you trim as much as you can from part one, literally anything that is irrelevant, and shorten so much that you can, alright? And I think this might include repositioning and rewriting some scenes to cater character building and character development and character backstory, because just arriving at an environment to, oh, this is the character we're going to recruit here, and they're in the middle of doing something and they have an epiphany, or they demonstrate their skill set, or they prove their worth, rather than, you know, just dropping them in and just exposition visual thing, you know, rewrite it, revisit it, put snippets in here through and through. You know, in this movie you had Djimon Hounsou and six pack display have a moment, like I don't know, he took his drink and he took it back and he sort of softly hit him. That's as close as banter you get with them. Like,
I think you could even condense their story together. Like if in this world where we condense these two movies to one, get rid of that, obviously the dock situation, the dock explosion, or the end sequence of the first film.
Yeah,
where
well,
they're portrayed.
Well, actually, you know what? If you shorten so much of that movie and you make that just a minor battle, a minor setback, just a minor one, where Charlie Hunnam as Kai is a betrayer, but you know they lose one of the blood axe siblings, and but Ed Skrein does not die. Don't kill him, because if you combine this one movie, you're not going to kill your main villain and then just bring him back just to conclude in the...
But wound him a bit.
Wound him a bit, give him a Scargiver, and the rebels get away with Kai as their prisoner. Bring them back to Veldt, and now all the rebels are there.
I'd like you said there, I'd reduce that down very much so. I'd also take Six Pack and I would put him in the Gladiator arena and have them go to find Titus, recruit Titus, and then he is also someone that they recruit there just because he's great, you know, he's an animal tamer or whatever. do that both.
It can be done. They recruited Lando Calrissian and his robot droid in Solo in the same environment.
Exactly.
So that's just an example. You
don't
don't need to do one person per environment.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you reduce that dock, fight at the end,
Literally,
you could have the gladiator scene we were talking about.
Yeah, just reduce it so much. And I'm thinking if you combine this to a 3-hour movie, you can make. I'm trying to be a little strict by making the final battle be 45 minutes, but hey, if you reduce so much, you can make it a 3-hour long battle.
Yeah.
And with reducing so much of that, right, and we've just spent the last 2 hours learning the stakes of what these villagers are facing, and seeing the existential crisis that robot's going through, and knowing a little bit more backstory with Kora and who she is to the fucking Darth Vader Emperor type, Balarasana Darosaurus.
Don't forget the Rex.
And which would have been fresh in your mind to know the impact of what something could mean, whether a decision of not wanting to be captured or sacrificing yourself to be captured for the sake of saving the villagers, which, by the way, Michiel Huisman stealing her weapon to shoot the bell to initiate the battle, I thought was probably the best thing in the movie.
Yeah, I think
because that was done without a second of thought.
Yeah, he's blinded by what's the best, because she's
giving herself
gives
up.
Yeah, and it's the safety of the village. And he's like, no, and he's the one. Then the consequence is he's the one that dies. Yeah, in the end of it. But yeah, no, that was a cool moment, and shooting the thing. Yeah,
and with everything fresh in your mind, compact it all. Zip file it, make it more tight. Shorten all the scenes, rewrite some stuff so you can intersplice character developments here and there. You can have a conversation between two characters. Don't have a fucking round table where everyone's having their moment to talk about something and something else, right? And then further develop that character, Charlie Hunnam as Kai, to come around to when the right moment comes, he does the right thing, because he comes from a world who the Balisana Dinosaurus Rex did destroy his world, and he's a fall in line type of guy, and he's trying to claim some rewards. But if you develop him, he's around, because I thought he was an interesting yin to Michiel Huisman's Gunnar Yang. I thought one's the bad boy, one's the good guy. Bad boy, good boy.
Farmer, yeah.
That's the way I saw it in between two. And I thought if you do this movie the way you do, and then in the end you conclude it where in the final battle you feel the impact of defeating the villain, because I actually did. And I liked how he had a bit of an ego, Ed Skrein did, in choking her, shouting, "Look at me, open your eyes." Like He had a bit of an ego to him.
I thought I was afraid it was going to end in a similar fashion, because it looked like he was going to fall down the thing. And it's like, oh, he's going to just survive again. Yeah. But no, they chopped his head off. They ended him. He's gone.
I like that it was Dario Naharis replacing Dario Naharis.
I think that too, actually,
I like that. He did both. He killed fucking Kai and what a great passive character. And I like how she presses the door and stops him, entraps him, and just decapitates his head off. I felt that, and it was done real quick, and I felt the urgency of it. And yes, he does die. Great. Casualties, consequences. I like that. I like me some character deaths, especially when there's a lack of character in the people. Yeah. So and that's what I was looking for, and I like that. And if you had that with him, he dies, but you still had Kai there as a potential romantic interest, but is also the bad boy who also betrayed them, but he's still there. He's that old saying Gandalf says, where good people die and bad people live, and this good man died and this bad man is stuck with us, but he's still trying to be on an arc to redeem himself, because now some of the rebels are dead, and I like how not pulling some stakes, the one with the lightsaber, Nemesis, she died as well, and great, I like that. I die when you die, but come on. when there's nothing else to do with them, you know, at least show some stakes. And I like that he committed to some of that. And I would have felt the impact of that whole thing. And you know, especially when in the end, when the main villain was dead, the other Blood Axe comes with a squadron of rebels and to take out the rest of the force. And I'm thinking, if you just did not have that scene in, I would not have thought, what about the rest of the army that's there? Yeah. I would not have thought for a second, wait, wasn't there more? No, I would thought Anthony Hopkins would have just sorted them out. That's what I would have thought. And
it's almost like, he's got to come an hour before. Like, it's over.
You could have just had them come afterwards, pull a Martian Manhunter, arriving when the battle is over, but you know, establishing there's more to come. You know, filling in the empty gaps of your Seven Samurai because you're missing some folks now. So, sure, you know, it was empty. It was empty. And
I think, having it be two films, it left a lot of room for unnecessariness. I think that there was a few things that stood out to me, and it was the very clearly, like, this is a part two kind of way, and by that I mean like the opening dialogue from Anthony Hopkins, like the narrator, as he's narrating it. He's recapping the first film, and I'm like, I thought I was going to get a bit more context of the world. And now you're just recapping the first film. And then as well as that, there's the scene where the two of them sleep together, Kora and Gunnar.
I completely forgot they were in a relationship.
I didn't feel like in the first film they were in a relationship. That's why it came out. It felt like he always fancied her, but I felt she never had any romantic feelings for anyone. It was only when he said, like, I was afraid I was going to lose you, and that's when all of a sudden she's interested. But then after that, when they've slept together and then they're just recapping certain things, like they're just giving exposition where it's like, remember how I told you that I was on the run, that I was an outlaw, and I did this? And then he's like, yeah, and you were also this. He's like just giving exposition upon exposition. I'm like, yeah, but if this was one movie, you wouldn't need that at all because it was earlier on in the film. It's because this is the second film. And then there was some characterization things as well that I just didn't think fit at all. First of all, Jimmy the robot, having Anthony Hopkins voice him, I was like, this just feels like Anthony Hopkins is talking. He's not giving any kind of like robotic performance. It's just too human of a line read. In
the first one, I didn't mind it. Here, it's not that I didn't mind it, or it's that I did mind it. It's just like, that's Anthony Hopkins in a recording booth.
Exactly, yeah. So it didn't fit the character.
It would have suited it more if, I don't know, if it was Zachary Quinto voicing him or something.
Yeah, someone with a bit more of a robotic cadence, I think.
Yeah.
And then as well as that, then there was, the fact that Titus was introduced to us as like this drunken gladiator, and he's like upset about obviously his mistakes, and it's led him to be this drunkard.
Yeah, he failed his troops type of thing.
But then as soon as this film starts, that's gone. That whole character aspect is gone. He's back to just being a general and a leader. And they have that line earlier on, it's like, we know he's taking it seriously because he's not drinking. And it's like, okay, but we should have seen him maybe drinking more in this film, and then at some point he has the switch of like how serious this is going to be. But it was just, we were just told, he's not drinking anymore, like he's come to his senses. And I'm like, okay, so it just feels like now it's two different characters. I felt like he could have been in this film just one of the elders of the village, that he could have been the guy to take over from Corey Stoll from the first film.
There was an elder, your man who's...
I know, but
he's there.
Djimon Hounsou, he could have just been that character and just been the next leader, because although he was a good general, that whole character from the first one of the drunkard that they found wasn't... It just felt like two different characters then.
So do you not remember where he was sitting against the well or the bath where he was just getting washed, and Kora has a little DMC with him, and he stands up and he looks beyond in the distance majestically, having an epiphany. See, that resolves it. That resolves his journey.
Yeah.
But look, the idea of Djimon Hounsou as a gladiator.
That intrigues me more.
Yeah.
Than this. And
Great.
then as well as
It's a great idea, David.
it is a great idea. And then another thing that kind of adds to my post-apocalyptic need was there were certain scenes where they were dressed in just like jeans and a shirt. And it was like, this isn't sci-fi.
And then just the cap.
The cap as well. I thought that the paddy cap. I was like,
and then the onesie trousers with the
overalls.
the clips.
I was like, this
proper 1900s farming.
Yeah,
clothes.
and I was like, this would make sense if it was post-apocalyptic.
And
being
you're,
sci-fi.
And you won not. We're just talking over each other now. But you won with the lightsabers. She's an Amish. She's wearing the Amish clothes.
Yeah, like the sun hat and all.
Yeah.
I was like, this just it doesn't feel like you've set this in the right world. I think that condense these two movies down to one movie and change the setting a little bit. Like,
I could take or lead the sci-fi-ness or post-apocalyptic, but this was supposed to be right up my alley, and it is, but it ain't high on that list. Like, I do love my recruit the crew, assemble the team, gather the characters, and battle together. But this was just a comic book. You know, you have to put in the imagination, the ideas to make something great out of it, because they're just ideas. They're just establishments. There's nothing executed about it.
I wouldn't go looking for, if there is a 4-hour cut released of either of these movies. I wouldn't go looking for it.
I am not going to go looking for it.
No.
But you should know what you're in for when you watch that flashback scene where Cary Elwes is the king. He's murdered by
Caesar style, like.
Oh yeah. Oh, was it?
Well, I'm pretty sure that's how Caesar was killed. But it's like, he's lured in and killed by his friends and all. And I hated that moment where she kills the kid, but then struggles to kill the guy who's accusing her of being a murderer, and it's like,
character development.
It's just like, okay, so you were okay killing the kid, but now when it's your adoptive father, and
who you know is a genocidal maniac who's forcing the blame on you,
that's when you struggle. And then immediately as you're leaving, you shoot people on the way out. It just that drives me mad.
You think that drives you mad, David? The violins.
The violins, cutting in between them being murdered and violins.
Did you ever see that episode of SpongeBob where it's a rip-off on Jaws, and they're Mr. Krabs on the boat and everything's fine and dandy, they're fishing, and then a parody of the Jaws music plays. He opens the doors and there's a real life archive of footage of an orchestra conducting the music. It's like, that's happening in them as if me and you were to listen to music, but it's also part of the soundtrack. I forget the term it's used.
Diegetic, is it, or is it non-diegetic?
It's one of them. It's like the characters in the movie hear it, but also we as the audience hear it. Whereas some music, only the audience can hear it, like the soundtrack. Yeah. But as we're watching this scene of execution, the violin is the soundtrack. The violin's playing, that's the soundtrack. But there's actual people there playing violins, and they're playing it more excessively as they're being murdered. So you're into the scene. Gotta hit this note here when that person gets stabbed. Yeah, and I'm thinking, what the fuck are you actually thinking? Like that. This is just a load of nonsense.
It's an idea. He had an idea, and so we put it on the screen.
That's not a great idea.
No, they can't all be great.
And I just want to say one more thing. Djimon Hounsou gotta get his fucking just dues.
I really like him.
He was crying in this movie.
I really hope, like you have always said, I really hope he plays Kratos in God of War for Amazon.
He's not going to get his leading role in a movie, not since he co-leaded with Leonardo DiCaprio in
Blood Diamond, is it?
Fuck, man.
I've not seen it.
Have you not seen Blood Diamond?
No, I have to see it though.
That's the movie, man. Blood Diamond, Leonardo DiCaprio, Djimon Hounsou. Oh, the rawness of Djimon Hounsou. There's this one scene in that movie in the end.
Don't spoil it.
Oh, man. Watch it, man. But give him a leading role in a strong IP. Because think about it, David. Think of his filmography. he's always just one of the cast.
It's important, yeah.
And he stands out as the actor than the character he plays. And did you see The Legend of Tarzan with Alexander Scargiver?
Yeah.
He was in that. He was in the Guardians of the Galaxy and by extension the Captain Marvel. He's in the Shazam things as well.
He's in A Quiet Place Part 2 and then the new one.
Yes, and he's probably the biggest curiosity in the upcoming A Quiet Place day one because you want to know who he is and how he leads. But like, he's just always one of those actors in the... I was looking at his filmography recently and I'm just thinking, oh yeah, he was in that movie. Oh yeah, he was in that movie. Oh, look at that. Djimon Hounsou.
He's one of those characters, or one of those actors even, that you know to see, but you wouldn't know his name and you could like, I recognise him but I couldn't place him.
Okay, so I said The Legend of Tarzan. Don't forget Fast and Furious 7. Don't forget The Kingsman. Don't forget King Arthur. Don't forget... Well, yeah. That's not that big of a list, but god damn it, that
Gran
man...
Turismo.
Yeah, but he was really exceptional in that. He was really good in that movie. But, yeah, he was also in Amistad. He was a pivotal character in Amistad, so... Djimon Hounsou. Pay the man.
Have you got a recommendation for us before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I'm actually caught between two recommendations.
Go on. Recommend two. Fuck it.
No,
go on.
no.
It's your podcast. Do what you want.
I don't think many people are going to listen to this episode.
Go on.
I just finished Beef.
Oh, Beef. That's a great one. Okay, yeah, that's a great recommendation. Yeah, I've seen this.
No shit, it won the Emmys. No shit. No longer do I look at Stephen Yeun and think Glenn from The Walking Dead. He is Stephen Yeun. No wonder he was originally cast as whatever Golden Boy Superman.
Oh, Sentry.
No wonder he was cast as Sentry because the director of 6 or 8 of the episodes that were 10 in Beef was the director of the upcoming Thunderbolts. I didn't know that until I recognised his name. That's interesting. And episode 9
is great. I think that the last episode it's not really in line with the other episodes. I don't really like the finale.
No.
But all other 9 episodes are great.
But episode 9 just did something that was not a recurring theme. The panic room door. That scene?
I can't remember.
You can't remember?
No. It's been a while now. It's been like a year since I've seen it.
Really?
Yeah.
Has it?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Beef is a show where what happens when your road rage escalates. What happens when something so small escalates to life-changing decisions. So yeah, I watched Beef. I hope people are listening to this episode because I don't know anyone who watched Rebel Moon. Therefore, I don't know anyone who's going to watch Rebel Moon Part 2. Therefore, I don't know if anyone's going to listen to this episode and hear my recommendation.
I never know.
That's why I'm saving my other recommendation for something else popular to go about. But I don't know, maybe I'll recommend it again. But yeah, Beef, just finished it. What about you?
I'm going to recommend the Chucky series. I've been watching that now over the last couple of weeks just in preparation for the season 3 we don't know if it's the last season or not, but it's kind of releasing its second part of the season now, so I've just been slowly watching that one episode a day and I'm really enjoying it. That's one of my guilty pleasure franchises is the Child's Play series and Chucky, and it embraces, what I really like about it is that it's something new but it fully embraces its history with everything. It embraces the original 3 films, the Bride and Seed of Chucky, and then the newer reboot, not reboot, but kind of back to form. Yeah. And it's
acknowledging the linear timeline of everything.
Yeah, and I really enjoy it. I'm enjoying it.
I actually care. I command a lot of respect for doing that. Where are you on so far?
So at the moment I'm midway through season 2, so I was reintroduced to Glenn and Glenda.
Did you know they were coming?
Yeah, I did. I had seen it because obviously it's been out a few years now. I had seen images of them before,
right?
So I knew they were coming eventually.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, I finished season 1 and 2. Haven't started season 3. and all in due course. I don't want this show to go on forever. Like, I think season 3 takes it in an entirely new direction. So, well, not entirely, but in a new direction. So, you know, here's hoping it ends strong, because the last two, Cult and Curse of Chucky, didn't like whatsoever. Thought it was shite. Didn't like it. And then the show came out.
So do you like the aspect of the show with Nika?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you like it more in the context of the show than you did in the movies?
Oh yeah, I just didn't think it was good. Like, I just see a solid difference. I really do. It's not just funnier. I just think it's better. I don't like some decisions that were made with that character, Nika. You know, the decisions I'm talking about. The mobility decisions. I don't like that. I never did. There's nothing for them to do. But everything else I do like. And yeah, they really are embracing the campiness of Chucky. So yeah, that's it.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the podcast, Brian.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you for listening to the episode and your special treat, our special announcement.
Hope you didn't skip.
No, hope you didn't skip ahead now, but our special announcement is that we kind of been saying it now the last couple of times, that every now and again we're doing a bonus episode, but just for you, for your special ears, for all our special listeners, we appreciate you supporting the podcast so much that we are going to start doing now a bonus episode every 2 weeks. So starting this weekend, we are going to have a bonus episode talking about our favourite Spider-Man villains. And then following on every 2 weeks, we're going to release a bonus episode. So yeah, you'll have a weekly Wednesday waffle every Wednesday, and then every second week you'll have a bonus episode. So if you have any topics for those bonus episodes, please do write us in. We're now you're nearly guaranteed to have it done, because we're going to be doing an episode every 2 weeks. So we definitely need topics. We can't come up with all of them. So make sure you're sending in those suggestions to us, either via email to talkingpicturespodcast1@gmail.com.
You got it.
Make sure that you can send it to us on any of our social media apps, and make sure that you're following those as well. We're on Twitter, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we're everywhere that you get your podcasts. So make sure that you're subscribed to us to never miss an episode. And yeah, make sure that you join us next week, where we talk about I'll keep it a secret. We won't say. You have to come back every time to see what we're talking about next.
Sorry, Dave, I couldn't jump in there to save you.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. Sometimes I just like run and I was like,
but I also forget, and I'm actually going to purposely not check my phone, because
I know what's next week.
Oh, what is it?
It's that the thing, I'm giving you hand signals.
Yeah, I know, and I'm really struggling. Oh yeah. Yeah,
that's it. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, something we haven't done before. So make sure make sure that you make sure you check back in with us next Wednesday.
Make sure you've been to the cinema a few times, let's just say.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, David.